Good morning, sis. It is Thursday. Time for me to go to work. Guess what I have? My new Fossil watch. Can you see it? I'm so proud of it because I've been wanting this watch for the better part of a year, and I finally got it at a sale. It was like almost 70% off, so I'm like, mine. I'm so pleased. Don't tell mom though, she'll kill me because she says I have too many watches. But what's too many watches? I mean, I only have a lot. Anywho, I was thinking about how crappy work has been lately. Started thinking about my first real memorable job, and the first job that I remember was the time I worked at the theme park, Universal Studios Hollywood. And you remember there because you used to work it too. But I went in first. My foot into the park was they were looking for people to work their Halloween Horror Nights. And you know how much I love Halloween, and they said it was a temporary job with a chance of growth. And I was desperate for money because I just graduated, I wasn't contributing anything. So I went in. I remember filling out papers, and I was super nervous because I was thinking, this is going to be so different from the others. And I had an interview. Didn't know if I'd do it right. I hate interviews, sis. You know how much I hate interviews. I hate being scrutinized. I hate being looked at. And so interviews are very, very hard for me. And faking enthusiasm takes a lot. But I guess they liked because they hired me, and I was so thrilled. The position I had was crowd control or something like that. I'm one of those people who stand and make sure that the crowds are moving, that nobody's cutting in line, that areas that are supposed to be clear are clear. It was a fairly straightforward job. And the uniform, I don't know how much it's changed because I haven't been to Universal Studios in such a long, long time. The uniform was not exactly the sexiest thing. It was these khaki pants. During the summer it was short. You know, we had to wear those uniforms for Halloween Horror Nights, but before you think it seems really tacky and out of place, we had to, for Halloween Horror Nights, wear these black robes. And I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm wearing black. My first place that I was doing crowd control for the most of the time that I was there at Halloween Horror Nights was at the classic movie monster maze. So it had all the originals, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, Bride of Frankenstein. So I don't know how scary it was. I know that before it started, before they opened and everything, they had us all tour through the mazes, all of them, in broad daylight, thank God, because, you know, I didn't want to go through the mazes at night, especially the one called Clive Barker's Hell. That one just was disturbing, and it was in broad daylight without any of the characters. We were just there to learn the layout, because in case if some person got stuck or was too scared to move or anything like that, we would have to go in and get them out. Fortunately for me, that never happened. I never had a person never had to go into a maze and take someone out. My first night was fun. I just remember having fun all those nights. The only thing I could complain about, and it's really nothing I could complain about because what other time they're going to do it, was that the hours were between 6 and 1 in the morning. And we would stay until 6 to 2 to make sure that the park emptied. So, and this was before I had a car. I never had a car growing up in LA. So mom or dad would pick me up and take me home. Oh God, kudos to mom, especially mom, for getting up and getting me for that whole month. And God, I wish I had the energy to stay up that late. I just can't anymore. I just remember standing out there having a hell of a great time. Make sure people didn't cut in line, making sure people were behaving themselves, watching the characters, as they're called, scare the people, because if any of you well, you know, when you go to those haunted areas and you're walking to the mazes and they have those short closed-in corners, they would cover it with fog and someone would pop out and scare you. One of my favorite things was the Chainsaw Gang, because I was so close to the center of an opening. It's in front of it used to be the Back to the Future ride, but now it's the Simpsons ride. They had this huge center, and the Chainsaw Gangs would march in there, and then they would start chasing everybody, and that was one of my favorite things to do. One of the hard parts about it, though, was the drinkers, because I don't know if they do it anymore. You're gonna have to tell me, but Universal Studios allowed drinking in that, and they would give you like the 3-foot long, plastic souvenir containers and fill it with, I don't know, margarita or something, and people would get drunk, doing stupid things. And I've heard of stories of, them taking a swat at a character, them trying to hit a character because they're so drunk and stupid. That was the worst thing I ever saw. The other thing that bothered me was the fact that the fog machines, I didn't realize this, but excuse me, the fog machines would really dry out my throat, and one time I lost my voice, couldn't talk. The fog machine completely ruined it. I still went to work, I just couldn't yell at people, to keep moving, don't cut, get out the line, all that stuff. I was just sounded croaky and scary, which with the black rope, I guess it worked. I kind of inadvertently scared people myself, not because I wanted to. It's just like you're going through a foggy area and you're walking around with black robes and the hoodie over, and people just freak out. That was fun. Would have been nice to have some gore or anything like that. I remember on the last week, I think it was the last week, I decided to really treat myself, because at Universal, employees eat. We don't eat for free. No, whoever tells you it's a blatant lie. You do not eat for free. You either bring your own lunch, or you can get food from the cafeteria, which really wasn't that bad. Or you could get food from the restaurants, but only 2 places they gave you employee discounts. The rest were full price, which is kind of sucky, but whatever. And on the last week, I decided that I was going to treat myself to lasagna and cheesecake with Coke. But there was no place for me to sit out there. So I went to the lunch area for the employees that was close to the tram ride. And while I was eating there, I was basically eating by myself because none of my coworkers were free. This guy sat down with me, and he was covered in blood. And you think, I'm eating lasagna, you're covered in blood, it's gonna put me off my meal. It didn't. Surprisingly, it didn't. And he started talking about how he got hired to be a character because he had a funny arm. He did have a funny arm. He was like, he had like only one complete finger, and the rest were one was gone and one was a stump and everything like that. And I think he was hired for Clive Barker's Hell, because they could do things to his hand, like put prosthetic fingers and rip them off and stuff like that. And he was telling me how the rest of the characters at that place, they hired people with, I don't want to say deformities, that sounds really rude, but who were different and could fit into places that normal people couldn't. There was this girl, I don't know what she has, doesn't come to mind right now. She was wheelchair bound. She had no legs. They would fit her into the Spider-Woman suit, which was this giant spider animatronic, and she would fit in there. And I guess because she was so tiny and skinny, and they would make her up really terrifying. Anyway, it was really nice talking to him, despite the fact that, he was covered in gore and blood, and I'm trying to eat my lasagna and cheesecake. But I remember that conversation, and I remember him. And after Halloween Horror Nights was over, I didn't know what was going to happen. But the supervisor in charge of us decided that some of us would stay on. And luckily, I stayed on. I was so lucky. So I stayed there and I worked for 2 years. And I worked crowd control. I remember working at the Wild 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 West show, which isn't there anymore. I remember working at the what's it called? The Waterworld show, which is not there anymore. At least no, I don't think so. Or sometimes, if they don't have enough employees, because it happens, they would have us work the rides. Not the machinery or anything like that, because we weren't trained to do that, but we were told to work at the crowd control, making sure people got in line. And I remember working a lot at the Back to the Future ride, which isn't there anymore. It's the Simpsons ride now. And that was fun because a lot of people wanted to work at the Back to the Future ride because if you go inside, you got AC, and you know how hot it gets in LA, especially up in Universal Studios Hollywood. I don't know why, but it just got stinking hot. And so working inside the Back to the Future ride was like the best thing ever because you were surrounded by AC. And that was delicious. I remember distinctly it was 2 years. I always volunteered to do Halloween Horror Nights. Always the best time. Sometimes I miss it because I'm sure I forgot all the hard stuff. Years later you're like, oh, that job was fun. And then you think about the fact that, I had to stand sometimes for 6 hours and I would be exhausted just standing there doing nothing. I don't know what's worse, seriously, standing there doing nothing, or baking in the sun. It's so hard to tell. Well, let me finish this video to you, sis, with a story that I love and it always sticks out to me while working at the park. Once upon a time, they had the Mummy Maze. I don't know if they still have it anymore. I kind of want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure. And it was close to the entrance. And this was brand new, and I was made to work it, and they would have the whole music and everything like that. Well, one time I was made to go, I used to work the front part, but now that one time they made me work the back part near the end. So it was actually inside the maze. I would be in there to help push out people who were too scared to keep going. Because, it's a mummy ride, and people think, the Mummy Maze, sorry. And people think, oh, it's not so bad, but some people definitely get scared, and especially the little kids, because these parents drag their kids, and the kids are screaming and hollering, and then at some point they just cannot be moved. So that's when I step in and help them the rest of the way out. So there I am in the corner near the entrance, near the exit. And the one thing that kind of creeped me out was this giant Anubis character. Dog with the long pointy snout and the pointy ears. It's from the second movie, the second Mummy movie. If you remember those giant dog warriors that they fought at the end. And it kind of freaked me out because it moved. But I tried not to think too much of it. And one day we had a lull. Nothing was happening. Nobody was moving. No crowds were coming. And this is what I hear coming from the giant 7-foot killer Anubis monster. And I'm like, what? So I kind of tentatively said, God bless you. And I hear this, thank you. Apparently, the person who's in this giant 7-foot monster costume was a 4-foot girl. And it was just it completely killed it. After that I was not scared of that doll. Well, that monster, because knowing that there's a tiny little girl inside there, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm not scared anymore. So that's what I got from Universal. I know I have lots of more stories. Nothing that comes to mind at the top. Maybe later I'll tell you some of the ghost stories. But I'm almost at work, so I will see you later, sis. Have a good day.